very last video lecture of the gender economics. And this lecture is on the poverty and the time use surveys. In case of poverty, actually, we look to the gender dimension of the poverty. But while doing that, and that's the maybe one of the most interesting major aspects of this lecture, uh, we look to the different dimensions of the poverty because poverty is usually understood as the first it is the economic living standards related to the economic living standards of the people, and the poverty is basically defined as the state of having a living standards below a minimum standard level, and how this standard level is actually determined is an important aspect. And usually, when we look to that limit, we prefer to use income. I mean, argued that you need a certain level of income, and if that income is below a certain level, in that case, the living standard of the people should be below that certain level. However, when we talk on the poverty of women, this definition will become problematic. This definition can be problematic for different reasons. Uh, for one reason, there are different, well, the households are not the same. Different households have different conditions, and maybe in one household you have a person with a severe health condition. And even though they might be earning substantial amount of income, most of that income might be going to the cure of that person. So the living standards of the people in that household might not be as good as another household with relatively lower degree of income. But especially in case of women, I mean, mostly women are living with men in the same household. So how can we define poverty of women independent of poverty of men? How we can say women are more poor than men? So here we have a problem. But that problem itself might be very useful to enlarge it, to actually develop the concept of poverty. And if you think about the concept of poverty is very much related to our living standards, how our economic system is actually shaping our lives. So actually, this enlargement of this poverty concept might be very much beneficial and interventional to understand or define our economic the well economically defined in economic sense our living standards, or enlarge that definition. I mean, make that definition to encompass more than what it's already encompassing. But it's also a nice ending of this course, in my opinion. Why? Because in the end, everything in we have seen in this course will boil down to this. Well, how women's overall living standards are affected, considering everything else: the history, the household conditions, and the labor market. How are everything combined affecting the overall living standards of women in society, and especially the ones at the bottom? How is it affecting the poverty felt by the woman, and how we can define that poverty? I mean, how we can measure even that effect. If we have time, we will have a last lecture, and the readings of that last lecture will be available on the macroeconomic policies and how they are affecting the gender relations and gender conditions in society. But that's pretty much an addition. I mean, most of what we have seen in this lecture was usually micro economic stuff. And there we see how macroeconomics can be connected to what we have seen in this course, macroeconomics. But consistent with the rest of the lecture, the basic structure of the rest of the lecture, lecture. This is a good ending actually. The last lecture, if we had another lecture, that would be an addition. Connected it to another sphere of the economics, basically connecting everything you've seen up to this point. Which is basically, how our macroeconomics policy is affecting, different macroeconomic policies or conditions are affecting the overall gender relations. How what we have seen up to this point is connected to the macroeconomic side of the uh, economics. Well, is macroeconomic policies or trends are helping or affecting everyone same way, or different segments of society are affected in different ways. Anyway, this was the omitted lecture, the lecture we have lost due to the corona break, but we have lost it, and you can look to it if you are interested. And the readings are there again. Anyway, let's start with today's lecture: poverty and time use surveys. Well, we have three articles, and each are actually in their own rights. We will have spent on them uh, a, a lot of time, basically. Although, again, first article will be reviewed in more detail as always. But before that, we have one lecture which gives kind of a taste. Maybe not that extensive, but not that great, maybe. But it at least gives kind of a taste of the idea of feminization of poverty. That's why I get that video. And it also concentrates on a special case of the poverty of women, which is criticized a lot in the first article, the focus on that particular aspect, the single mothers or female-headed households without a male head. Um, so I wanted to have a video on that focus point, which is criticized in the first article again. So see you how that one focus aspect uh, is plays out. I mean, what it means in real life. Uh, how are those people, the single mothers that are focused on, are explaining the difficulties they are facing in their lives. Anyway, so the first article is on the concept which is called feminization of poverty. So, what is feminization of poverty? You will see also the way in article it is defined in article, but basically the view that the poverty after 1970s and 80s especially, and the recent economic developments, including maybe women getting out of their household and become more independent, but in a market, in an economic system, which is still dominated by men, but leaving their household means also they leave their traditional roles where with some inferiority they might be getting some support, basically. So they leave the women leave their old position, but the new arena they are entering is still male-dominated arena. So as a result, even though they might get some independence, maybe they have paid this with decreasing living conditions, decreasing access to the resources or use of the resources. Maybe or maybe not. Maybe well, they have less resources uh, available to themselves compared with the resources available to the family they have. The male female pairs which are left by the woman, uh, but they might be more able to control the resources that are available to them. Maybe that's the case again. Uh, But the main feminization of poverty view is basically the view that after 1970s and 80s, women started to feel disproportionately the poverty uh, than men. Um, so this is the view, but that view is criticized by Sylvia Chant in the article. at the end, she still thinks that we should stick to the terminology, but she thinks the terminology has significant flaws. And this is the pretty much the article where we discover all of these complexities of application of the poverty concept to the gender inequality, plus the problems with the power of the poverty concept itself, maybe its limits. But to what extent we can use the poverty concept? To what extent it is useful to understand the inequalities and difficulties faced by different actors in the economy, and its limits and both its limits and also the way we can maybe extend that concept to cover more. The second article is the famous on the famous time use surveys. So basically, uh, well, that's the idea that based by of the idea that well, if we are defining the poverty, maybe we should not only focus on one resource that is mostly focused on that's the um, income, but rather we should focus on also other resources people have. If people have a lot of income but not that much time, that is, let's say, necessary for basic survival. Uh, I mean, to stay healthy, let's say at least, um, get enough sleep, get enough cleaning, get enough meal time, and even get some free time, which is, might be necessary to stay healthy. Uh, maybe they can still be considered poor, especially this might be for the case. Well, uh, if people reduce the time they use for working for others or working for common goods inside of the house, uh, to the level where they are left to with sufficient time to stay healthy, if doing that will make them become income poor. So if people had to choose between becoming income poor and time poor, that's a special case. I mean, where you might still think, well, even when they're not income poor, people might be still be poor because the cost of being income not being income poor is being time poor in that case. So this time poverty and time use surveys ideas are discussed in the second article. And the third article is application of this idea, and basically this idea is used to evaluate a particular program, which is basically encouraging the families in Latin America to send their children to school plus to healthcare checks, basically. While doing that will deprive them, especially the second one, deprive the parents from an important source, which is the work labor power of their children, which should be replaced by the labor power of the parents, which means they need to spend more time to do household work. Uh, so the true cost of sending the children to the school is found by this study. But meanwhile, also the time poverty concept and basically this time as a resource is evaluated a lot. But at the end, they are trying to also monetize the resource lost when children are sent to home. And this is an interesting thing. I mean, monetizing the lost labor when you send your children to school is interesting thing to look at. Anyway, these are the three articles, and I think all three are really good in different senses. So I think, well, these are most interesting, one of the most interesting three articles, and this is one of the most interesting lectures in my opinion, also. Anyways, we are getting close to 15 minutes mark, so let me stop here and let me start with the first article.